Hey, Internets. It's Paul. It's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here talking about Legion, Season 2, Episode 8, also known as Chapter 16.
Yes.
All right. So, last time we had a little bit departure from the Farouk thing where we had the delusion bit gets kind of somewhat resolved, basically. You know, the big delusion turns into the oil chicken, and he tracks it down.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were talking about his delusions of the past, which is alternate,
Oh, that was the episode
delusion.
before that.
Yeah.
All right. Now this was oil chicken.
I know.
We got rid of oil chicken,
Got rid of oil chicken. Well,
you brought up the point of where he wasn't connected necessarily to Farouk, that
Right.
it's a separate
but
problem.
in this episode, it brings us up to, since most of the time, I shouldn't say most of the time, a number of times when we've seen the oil chicken, it's been with little parables.
Yes, right. And it seemed like that was a logical place. Nothing is logical about the show.
No.
But that was a logical place to end the parables.
Yeah.
Like, because all of John Hamm's parables up till now have been about like, hey, the delusion of the oil chicken is, here's an example. And so you're like, and then they beat the oil chicken. Hence, you probably don't need another John Hamm parable. I'm not a big fan of the parables, by the way, FYI. They're not horrible, but I'm like, it just slows things down.
Yeah, no, it's like, okay.
We'll jump to the parable, because there's a parable in this one.
In other stories, when there have been somebody telling riddles or whatever, it's just like, ugh. It's like in the Batman serials. It's like, good, Batman, just tell us immediately. Here's the, what could cross the road with a chicken? And you're like, it's
an oil chicken.
Okay, fine. And he's like, okay, good.
At least in that situation, the person probably telling Batman the riddle is the Riddler.
Yes.
And it's like somebody who's in the show,
Yes.
as opposed to John Hamm, who's not in the show, a narrator showing characters that are not connected to the show.
No.
And it plays out as a parable. It's like,
this is worse.
So this one was, okay, you thought you were done with the delusions, but there's the worst delusion of all is thinking that humans don't matter.
Oh, yeah, that's terrible.
So, and that is, I think we can all agree on that. I don't know that that's revelatory, but we should all have empathy.
We should.
Good. Empathy, good.
Yeah, which I guess, was reference to, did we tell people, like, if you haven't seen it, don't watch this show. I don't think we always do that. But anyway, perhaps in reference to David apparently being a puppet master, making everybody do what he wants them to do without concern of whether or not they want to do it. Because if they were thinking about what they were doing, then the Shadow King, was that his name? I don't even know anymore.
Farouk, Shadow King?
Yes, would know. I can read your mind.
Yes. He's trying to, in that part, David is attempting to create a plan to stop the Shadow King without giving it away to his fellow compatriots, because then theoretically Shadow King would know about it. But real quick on the parable. So the parable comes about, John Hamm, they start with Plato's version of the cave, the parable of the cave, where people only see life in shadow form, and so when they are given the actual real world to see reality, they don't believe it, because they're like, no, I know it's real. It's that thing that's on that wall, and then it's brought out to this idea of our current version of Plato's cave is cell phone technology.
Yeah, she had a bad cell phone, boy. She takes a picture of a chicken and she thinks it's a duck. And so for some reason, someone's able to see that it is a chicken, and she's like, no, it's a duck. No, it's a duck. And somebody else, I think, said it was something else. And,
It's a cow.
Yeah, it's a cow. It's a cow. That's not even close.
It's like,
nobody looks at the blue dress and says that it's a trench coat.
It's a tractor.
Yeah.
I guess it's trying, the point is being, what is truth? Truth gets lost, and we don't have empathy for people anymore because they're just on the other end of a phone, and so we don't care about them, and we can insult. Cyberbullying. We can be cyberbullies, which is all interesting and, a nice little life lesson. I don't know that cyberbullying is necessarily connected to this show.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when they had the parable about, don't be mean to people and ostracize them, and then they were about to kill the basket head.
Yes.
That fit.
Okay. Yes.
But
and maybe there's a long con on this, and it's gonna.
Is there everybody on their cell phones with this thing?
Cell phone's bad. That's what I got out of that. Cell phone's bad.
Okay.
So.
Did cell phones do anything in this episode?
I don't. I think it's obviously it's about perception of reality.
Sure.
What's real and what's not. And so that comes to play in the story a few times where, for instance, Lenny says, "Is this real?"
Right. She says that.
She's like, "I want to know, am I just a part of the Shadow King's reality right now?" And like, I'm going to suddenly realize I'm not free. I'm actually part of still the Shadow King's brain. David convinces her. What I liked in that moment is like, David's like, "No, you're here. I won't let anything to happen to you. You are in prison." like FYI, yeah, it's real. You're in a cell. Okay, good. I mean, obviously, he lets her out at the end.
He does.
So that happens. But so there's that idea of what's real, what's not. I think Sid, when she's talking to Clark, mentions that she thinks David doesn't know what's real and what's not.
Right.
That he has a trouble figuring out that. And I think the idea is that Sid is worried that David is losing empathy.
Oh.
I think if I were to try to make a connection between the parable and the actual story, I'm guessing she thinks because he doesn't know what's real and what's not, and he's losing the idea of that humans are important.
That's interesting. One thing I was thinking was they're like trying to prepare us so that we can see how the current Sid could become the future Sid. So
yes, I got a little bit of that myself.
So it's like, like she, yeah, and because I kind of felt like they were pushing it a little bit, like, it's like, I guess if I need to see it from her perspective of how David's been different since he's been back, and it was great before, but now he's been kind of weird.
That's probably the most important scene I think in the episode. Sure. Is Sid talking to Clark.
Yeah,
I think those two have her revealing her thoughts about that. Yeah. I think are really
because
important.
I felt like she took that whole I'm going to go solve this, kill the monster by myself, harder than I would have thought she did. I mean, it's okay that they're trying to set that up, I guess, and that's what it kind of feels like to me in a way. I mean, I probably should think of it more in terms of how they really haven't been stable since they came back. I perhaps maybe attributing it more to the situation and not any change in him necessarily.
The people.
But I guess it's if what could possibly happen, and I don't think they will. I think they'll find a way for this future not to happen.
I think you're right.
We have to believe, or that it's possible that he becomes this non-caring person who is all powerful and they need to kill. So
and in fact, Clark in that conversation points out, one way that he could become horrible is if you dump him. Basically, if you hurt him, he has the power to destroy the world. So just FYI, no pressure, but maybe don't piss him off. Clark is obviously more pragmatic. He's thinking here. There's some real consequences to whether or not David is functioning properly, and so he's kind of carrying.
I feel like he hasn't been as diligent with not pissing David off.
True.
As he advises.
Now, here's the thing, though. We were jumping around a bit. We'll kind of go back and maybe try to go a little more chronological in a second. But this is, I think, the most important conversation.
Most important.
So, Sid, Sid says she doesn't trust David.
Right.
She goes just short of saying she doesn't love him anymore, but man, she comes really close to saying she doesn't love him anymore. Like, oh yeah, back in the day, everything was great,
yeah.
And now he's different, and it's different. And
at first he sort of said, actually, back in the hospital, it was nice, it was very romantic, and then when we got out, it was really great.
Yeah,
and then he went away,
and then I had this sense, and then the later on when she goes to David, and they're in the Le Désolé together.
Yes,
there's that moment where they see their bodies, the skeletons, and David's like, oh yeah, that's us, and she's very kind of nihilistic about the whole thing. Oh, see, this is what'll happen. Any time we're gonna, as long as we stay together, we're gonna die. I assume horribly because everyone's gonna die, right? I mean, but anyway, okay. Oh, look, this is our future, and he's like, no, you know what? We can change this, and I forgot his exact words, but something along the lines of, I love you, and we're gonna make this work. And her response, where she goes, that's sweet. Like, it's really cold, and like, I don't believe a word you're saying right now. And then, she finishes. Oh, she says, "Prove me wrong." Right, is what she says. God, all those.
I forgot my broadcast cut out at a certain point, and so I came like, "Prove me wrong." I was like, I wonder what she wants to prove wrong.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. I missed that, and I was like, it probably didn't mean anything.
And she's saying like, when the time comes and you need to make a choice, prove me wrong. And I think it is still a little ambiguous what she's talking about, but I think it's like, because she says, I'm not sure that he has kind of the best interest of everybody in mind. So I think...
Yeah, see, she's already...
I feel like she's not in love with this guy.
Well,
she's hoping, she wants to rekindle it, but she's not currently in love with him.
She might not be. I mean, but also I feel like it's setting us up. It's like she hits him to say that I'm on your side. In other words, why aren't you believing that I'd follow it?
Yeah.
And the whole plan, as far as the rest of the section is concerned, is, hey, we're going to go get Farouk and end him, right? And so it was this special plan that David and, Sid were going to do, where they were going to help him, because the future Sid said, do that. So she was like, oh, okay. She didn't have any questions about that. So that he would be like, oh, I can't tell Sid now because the future Sid said something different than what the current Sid thinks we're going to do. It's like, you'd think it'd be easy, except that's what they want you to, It's like, it seems like that's where she's coming anyway. That she's like thinking, maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe it's better for love.
She does say love is, I think, the only way to save the world, I believe, which I feel like she's...
so maybe, David is getting to a point where he doesn't care about anybody else and thinking, you know what, the world would be better if I ruled it, like, in the previous... or one of his, previous timelines or whatever. So that's the aspect that he wants us to see, that he could be, a terrible, tyrant if he just gave in to his, power and like.
I think in that case, in that situation, he was also still under the influence of Farouk as well. But yes, I know what you're saying. That was the one. This is back in the couple episodes ago when we had the future version of him. But there's also that version of him had like in his mind there was like the dancers. And it was Farouk, like, basically controlling him in the dance. So I feel like Farouk was still maybe in control in that situation.
Maybe.
But not to say that Farouk couldn't be again.
Knows? Yeah. So, anyway, so that's what it seems like they're preparing us for. Even though for me it feels a little awkward and clumsy.
So to reiterate real quick, what they're preparing us for what?
For her betrayal of him.
Okay.
Like to think, no, we're not going to kill this guy because I think it's bad for you, David.
Right. So
because not the whole like, because he even says it like what we were saying last week, because he's just like, what? We're going to need him later. We'll solve those problems later.
Right. Yeah. Good point. She's like, wait, are we helping the Shadow King? And he's like, he shakes his head, but he doesn't say no. He's like, and so. She's like, well, what about the end of the world? It's like, one problem at a time.
Yep.
One problem at a time.
Yep.
Let's just jump into that for a second. So,
and to be honest, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think this current, because we didn't have this actor portraying Farouk in the last season. So I really think this is a very good actor.
I do too.
But if this was, I would prefer this to be last season we have the Shadow King. It's like I don't want every season to have a new guy being Farouk or whatever. It's like the previous season, all we saw was a big yellow guy or whatever. And that wasn't anybody really, just some guy in a suit probably. But this is a very good actor. I think he's doing a great job. But I'm done. I mean, please kill his ass. I'll take this world being a hellscape if he dies. I'm so on David's side.
I'm gonna make a little bit of analogy to our last recap of Westworld, in that it's kind of felt like David and Sid are kind of like Dolores and Teddy.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. In the episode before Dolores betrays Teddy, she's questioning whether her love for him is real.
True.
And Teddy is like, let's go away together.
Right.
Those two things are happening in this episode. I think Sid is questioning whether she still loves David.
Yes.
And David has a whole bit where he's like, we could just go away together. We could just, our future, we could be you and me together in a beautiful place. And she's like, yeah, well, we just die together. I mean, he puts out that same notion of like, love will keep us together. And that's what she's like, that's sweet. But, so anyway, it's just kind of an interesting, when you threw out the idea that she might, be coming to a betrayal moment, it would almost some ways mirror that relationship from the Westworld thing.
Yeah, even though the powers are different in terms of who's questioning or not.
Yes. Okay, so beginning of the episode starts with a quote. And it says, to create fear, use a mirror. And it's a Migo monk adage. I'm not sure what that means. I'm not even sure I have a good theory on that.
So if you were out there and
please give a theory. I mean,
what are these monks named?
What
group are they?
The Migo monks are the ones that were housing. It is them.
Okay.
It's the ones that were housing the body.
In the words of a famous fake monk.
So, I mean, obviously, reflection of yourself conjures your greatest fears. I assume David could be afraid of what he actually is. I don't know. Anyway, I don't have a clear version of what, because usually what happens is when you see a quote like that at the beginning of an episode or a movie, that's the summation of that episode's stuff. And I didn't really get that.
That idea always amuses me, because in these shows you seem to be like, oh, let's start with the title. I know what it means. I've cracked it. And
Chapter 16. I'm cracked. No, but yeah, you're right.
There's other lines in the show.
I am big on doing that kind of stuff. It's true. For instance, now that you brought it up,
the chapter refers to
chapter 16.
in books that separate.
The poem that young Fukuyama's nursemaid is reading to him when she's talking about how, hey, one person can make a difference.
Yes.
A little bit of knowledge improves the world.
Yeah.
That is from Phantom Tollbooth.
Oh.
Which I suppose is relevant in terms of like the little guy drives a car through the Phantom Tollbooth into a completely different world. Where he learns things. That's the world of wisdom.
Nice of him not spoil it for you.
Sorry, he doesn't learn anything and dies horribly alone, and his girlfriend betrays him. Okay.
This is just like it.
No. And then the poem that Oliver is, as he's driving Farouk through the desert, he's doing Allen Ginsberg's America. When he's talking about like your human war, that's what he ends with, which is a line from that poem, but I think maybe it means something a little bit more in this case because it's talking about humans versus mutants, perhaps. Anyway. Okay, so we had that quote. I'm not sure how it relates to the rest of the episode. But we then have David has a chat with Sid. And that chat we talked a little bit about already, but one of the things about that is like, I ain't talking to future Sid anymore.
Yep.
And she's like, "What? Did you have a fight?" Like, nah, we smooched and it was bad. Yeah, he didn't say that.
No,
so
yeah, I was like,
I'm not telling you why.
That given the last one, that her first thing was, "What, did you kiss her?"
Right, right. But she's like, "You have a fight." Maybe
she tried to kiss you. Is that why you not want to talk to her? Is that what's going on?
But so yeah. So they're trying to figure out, hey, the monk jumped to his death. How do we figure out where Farouk's body is?
Sure.
And so her thought is, hey, ask future Sid. He's like, no, I ain't doing it. But nicely, Tanami, who's trapped in the D3 mainframe,
yes,
realizes Fukuyama is also, his presence is in the mainframe.
Yeah.
And the Migo monk, the monk who killed himself, because if you remember, there was an episode where he was wired to Fukuyama.
Oh, yeah.
Well, when he wired in, it wired back, and so it took part of his consciousness into the mainframe. So, hence, there's a guy who knows where the body is, whose consciousness is now, and he knows what bodies are buried. Right. So, Tanami takes that information, controls one of the Vermilion, the little mustache women, and has it walk to your favorite place, the cafeteria with the floating things, the moats. Give me that moat, a schnitzel and some fries on a moat, and be like, best restaurant ever.
Yep, like, hey, I'm going to let this go around a
little
more.
Best Yelp review of all time.
Yes.
Okay. Manages to convince David that it's actually Tanami.
Yeah.
And like, yep, I can't control this very long, but here's the deal. I know where Farouk's buried. David does a quick little like, am I looking? All right, where? And after a little bit, he hicks and giddy ups, and it's Le Désolé. Okay, Désolé. Some more meaning.
Ooh, meaning.
I took a little bit of French back in high school. I remember Je suis désolé. That's I'm sorry.
Oh.
But I think désolé also can mean desolate. Hence like a desert or something. So there's a little maybe a double meaning.
So the one desert in the world.
It's the one desert. Le désolé.
There you go.
It's the I'm sorry. It's the apology desert.
Yes.
I don't know. Love means never having to say you're sorry. I don't know if you knew that, Paul.
No.
Okay.
That'll help me out if ever I'm in the desert.
Okay, good. Yes, that's how you get out. So David uses his his version of Cerebro to try to figure out where Le Désolé is. And he talks to another version of himself.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
Yeah,
I guess we'd seen that before, where he had inner David, and so he's found a way to tap into that version of himself. And they decide they know where it is, but it's still like I think Sid called it a geographic disorder. And in order to, they don't want to, as you mentioned, they don't want to, the Davids don't want to tell the rest of the team the location, because then Farouk can read their minds. So instead, he has a plan. He's got like a battle strategy. He's got a little map with miniatures and little flags.
Yes.
Little people's faces.
Yes.
And he goes in and he gives each person a task.
Yep.
That to be done in the future. And we see glimpses of that future task taking place. Yep. So I'm assuming that's real. So I mean, obviously we have a moment, we have a plot obstacle at the end where Melanie knocks Clark out before he can do his thing. But we do see a future version of Clark, rappelling down into the desert.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, okay, if that's real, then that does happen anyway. But it seems like Clark and some of the Vermilion minions their job is to either erect or find this giant tuning fork. That's what that is. I mean, it's like and he says like the clock of the long now is what they call that. Now, maybe that's what that is. Maybe the tuning fork is the clock of the long now. I mean, you hit a tuning fork and it makes a sound that just carries for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows? He gives Lenny the task of, she's a sniper.
Yes.
We see her with a sniper rifle out in the desert at some point. And he also then, in the future, he's like, on your mark, get set, go. And all the cell door opens. She gets out, gets on a moped, rides away.
Yeah.
So she's free.
Free.
But we do see, again, in the future, she shows up in the desert with like a burning car. And she's got a sniper rifle, and she's positioned to take out somebody. Also, Carrie with a C, and I don't think he talks to Carrie with a K, but he has an image of her. The Carries will be involved as well. So it's the team. The team is going to do their thing.
Well, Teen Sans, Ptolemy.
Yeah.
That's how he even says his own name.
Yeah, he goes, it's Ptolemy.
Ptolemy. And also without, Melanie.
Melanie, who, again, man, they've kind of done her wrong this season.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she has another little brief appearance in this one. And again, she's not really her own person. At this point, she's under control of Oliver / Farouk. We see her knock out Clark as Clark's like, oh, I'm supposed to go help out at La Désolée. Bonk. And then we backtrack it, does a little reverse time to Melanie in her room. And she's hearing Oliver's voice singing, My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean. And then we hear Oliver say, we got her. And she's under their control. Now, here's a theory for you. Remember, Oliver, episodes ago, talking to the Shadow King, like, I'm going to take you down.
Yes.
And you're just not going to see it till it comes.
Right.
I think because at one point when he says, Oliver controls Melanie's mind, and he says, she's ours,
right.
Mine, ours. He says that exactly. So I think the love between Oliver and Melanie is going to mean that somehow, even though Oliver is under control of Farouk, by bringing Melanie into this mix, he can give Melanie commands that Farouk doesn't originate.
Oh, interesting.
So I feel like there'll be a moment when Farouk is confident that Melanie's under his control, and then Oliver will use her to surprise him.
Maybe that's that secret that he's got.
The 1 + 1 = 2, whatever. Anyway, so that's my thought. That Oliver has enough of a link, a connection to Melanie that he can still communicate with her, and unbeknownst to Farouk.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh look, she's our spy, but not really. All right, that's my thought. Anyway.
Interesting.
I
hope so, but
yeah, I hope she gets something to do.
Yeah.
By the way, so there was a moment when Sid gets the note. So David leaves her a note when he's going to go off, like before his plan's underway. He's like, leaves her a note. I'm going to fight the monster.
Yes.
She's sitting, waiting, realizing that something's wrong, and there's the tea kettle, and then the tea kettle goes off. Am I wrong, or wasn't that a thing that Melanie talked about back in the day, where she would like wait and watch the tea kettle, and she would wait for it to go off for some reason, like that she knew that time was passing.
I did feel like there was stuff about tea in the previous season.
Yes, that's true. But if there was something, let us know in the comments. I felt like the tea kettle and then the tea kettle going off was something that somebody, either Melanie had mentioned maybe in previous episodes, that maybe that's a callback to Melanie waiting on Oliver, because this is Sid waiting on David. He's off again. Great, just like Oliver left Melanie.
Yeah.
So that's my thought there.
Interesting.
Then we've got, this is interesting because it's future Sid, again, is, screwing with things.
Yes.
She tells the Shadow King, hey, here's how you figure out where your body is. The driver for your body, the hearse, her name is blah.
Oh.
And so future Sid tells Farouk how to figure out where his body is.
Yes.
So again, she's really pushing for this.
Yeah.
We're going to save you, Farouk.
Yep.
So Farouk goes to this now blind and aged hearse driver and is like, tell me where you dropped the body off, basically. And she's like, well, if you give me the endless dream, then yes. So he puts her into this, I guess, endless dream state. Kind of like plugging her into the Matrix, more or less, where she can have sight and drive, and she always liked driving and stuff. So it's like she can drive forever. Meanwhile, she obviously told him where his stuff was, I guess. So he's heading off, and it's a little. I mean, I'm sure in this world, in La Désolée, where obviously he says time and space have different laws or something like that. So it's like they're not driving a car anymore. Now they're being pulled by a rickshaw. And David is just walking.
Just walking. That's all. You can't take vehicles through sand. It's impossible. Or even camels or anything.
Because, Sid airdrops in to find him. So she uses a vehicle to get to him, and then they're like, now we can walk.
Yeah, now we can walk. I'm not surprised that possible outcome could be their skeletons.
Right. Which obviously they can tell because of the necklace, which is the compass on it, which she uses earlier in the episode to figure out where it's like when he's outside. I'm on to fight the monster, and she's like, oh, yeah, there you went that way. So that's how she, I assume, uses that to track him down.
Right.
And there's a lot of wandering in the desert footage. They do it like comic panels.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. Maybe a little too much walking.
Yeah.
I did like this. I'm pretty sure this was a direct call to
Ishtar?
Wizard of Oz.
Oh.
There was a Wizard of Oz moment, and Ishtar. Lots of walking in desert. Yeah, Ishtar. Where it shows they're looking and they see an image of the Shadow King reflected.
Oh.
And he's on the rickshaw, but it looks like he's, it's got wheels. It looks like a bike. It's like the scene where the witch is riding the bike. It's like,
Okay.
So I'm thinking there's a little Wizard of Oz, because obviously it's a different world. It has different rules.
Yeah.
You have to, you travel, and I think there's an Oz.
Very Oz-like.
There's an Oz-like quality rules to Les Désolés, is my point.
Sure.
And they have, he has at least one companion now. He's going to need. I think maybe there's a. Farouk says he's going to get lost here unless he knows.
Sure.
Unless he knows the secret.
Yes.
Which apparently Farouk knows, although he still hasn't found this place. He's like, we're almost there.
Yes.
You do see the temple in the distance when he's like, we're almost there. But again, things appear and disappear with instantaneously. So it could, you could think you're there and then not get there. But so this, I don't know what the secret is. What is the secret of this place?
What's the purpose of having this interminable,
the chase, like to find his body? Yeah. I know it does feel. It feels like padding.
Yep.
You're like, oh, we know where his body is, but we can't get there.
Nope.
Not this episode.
No.
Probably not next episode.
Really, you don't think so?
There's 3 episodes to go.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So they're probably going to find it in the maybe penultimate episode.
See him. Okay, we'll see.
We'll see. So yeah, it does. This is to bring it back. I almost hate to do this. Almost hate to do this.
It's on his head.
No, it's not on his head. It relates to Lord of the Rings. Because there was a part of.
Don't you think it's all in his head?
Just like Lord of the Rings. Okay, no. Yes, but okay. So one of the things that kind of annoyed me
instead of drift off.
Go
ahead.
The first time I remember I read Lord of the Rings, first of many times. Okay, the parts that like dragged the most for me were Frodo and Sam traveling to Mordor.
Things dragged for you?
Like they walked and got tired.
You didn't
and
love
walked
that the
some
most?
more. I did not. I did not. So
he's a fan.
People traveling endlessly.
Yes.
Because it's just not compelling. And I get the idea that the passage of time has to happen. But man, it's just, it's like certain video games have that issue too, where they're like, hey, we want to get the idea that you had to travel to get here to make it worth something. But there's this happy medium where you don't just want to instantaneously get to your result, but you don't want to be traveling so far that now it's just, you're just bored out of your mind with the traveling. Like, oh, and I have to go through where now? Oh, God. Now I got to buy the horse and then ride the horse. Oh, okay, fine. So I feel like they're maybe missing, they've gone past the threshold of travel time to make it seem important. We got it. It's important. You can get there now.
Traveling to Bremen.
Yeah. So, so they're traveling. I don't know this. If you know the secret, if you have an idea, a theory for what the secret of this place is.
Yes.
And again, I think
that's different than the whatever the Oliver's secret.
Yes, maybe not. I do feel like the idea of like love is what will win this war has something to do with it. The fact that she's with him,
and the thing I wasn't clear on whether it's Farouk and David have to solve the secret, right? Is that right, or is it just David?
They both have to solve it, but I think Farouk knows what the secret is.
Okay.
So, but I'm gonna hope. Here's what I hope this. That we can bring that parable back to meaningfulness.
Oh.
That maybe the secret involves something about empathy.
It's a mirror.
Or, well, the mirror. Yeah, that's true. The quote.
But I'm talking about the parable. Sand so you can make some glass.
The worst.
That would make your mirror.
Dude, you just came up with a great idea.
Sure.
You do that tuning fork. It goes, whoa, it vibrates a certain frequency. The sand turns to glass. Then you look at it, you see your own reflection, and you realize, oh, wait, I'm the thing that's real. This place is the fake part. We're all real in a way, and also, what is real? And then they're in Israel.
A minute.
Okay, no, okay. I'm going to hope it comes back to the parable in that the idea of the greatest.
Go back to the parable.
Well, I'm just saying. I hope it
mounts to something.
I hope it mounts to something. Yeah. That the idea that the delusion of people don't matter. So somehow the solution to finding Farouk's body is, some kind of something to do with love or empathy. I don't know. Okay. Maybe in similar way. I don't. This is not a 1-to-1 correlation, but similar to spoilers, Avengers: Infinity War, where you've got Thanos trying to get the Soul Stone.
Yes.
It's like, oh, you know how you get the Soul Stone? Well, the only way is to sacrifice something you love.
Yes.
And it's like, what the intent is, oh, well, horrible bad guys won't have anybody that they love, right. So it won't matter. They'll never be able to get it.
Right.
So something along those lines where it's like, in order to find your body, Farouk, I'm not saying that it's not a 1-to-1 correlation, but something like that, like an empathy trap, if I were to put it. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what that is. But so then it ends with this kind of another intriguing scene where we've seen Melanie, she's taken over by Oliver. Then we see Farouk say, I'm coming for you, my love, I think is what he says. And it looks like, it's very dark, but it looks like, and it's kind of shifting passageways. I got the idea that it's a maze because we do see that Minotaur comes back, the one that was in Melanie's mind when she was trapped in her own brain, and they had to get her out. And they were worried about the Minotaur on crutches in her brain. So it ends with that thing, which if you were to just, the implication from the episode was that Farouk is trying to get to that's his body. I mean, that's what I got out of it, right? Like, so which seems a little weird, but
he is supposed to be around for a long time. So perhaps it's in a time when we had minotaurs and orcs or something.
What do you get out of the? Did you just do a Lord of the Rings reference? Well done, sir.
I did. I'm that tired.
All right,
he's worn me.
I've worn you down. Yes. Awesome. I got you with Lord of the Rings. So, what do you get out of the Minotaur?
No, that's it. Well, I think he's really old, and that's his body.
Yeah, maybe that's like it's not his actual. We've seen an image of his body being laid to rest in the egg thing, but maybe that's like a representation of his body in some way or something. Like in the astral plane or something.
Know. Maybe it's one of the old gods.
One of the old gods. Now you're doing Lovecraft, which is also cool.
Oh, I was actually not doing Lovecraft.
Okay, you weren't doing Lovecraft at all.
I was doing American Gods.
Oh, okay. Cool. Which has some Lovecraftian elements to it. But yes, good. Anytime we're talking Neil Gaiman, Tolkien, or Lovecraft, we're in good shape. All right. Well, anyway, yeah. So we had some issues with the episode, but it is pushing forward. This plan is in motion.
Yeah.
And I do feel like that's what we're coming toward, is this idea of the team. I like the idea of the team working together.
Even though they're not conscious of what they're doing?
Well, I think they will be once they reach these marker when they get to the Le Désolé.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I like the idea of the team being brought back, and it's not just a David.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I guess I'd be surprised if they're like, oh, well, it's all in the service of killing Farouk, so I'm fine with it.
I mean, when we saw David with the battle maps pulling out, he does, like, he burns the picture of Farouk and then he eats the picture of Farouk. So his intent is to kill Farouk.
Yeah, but I'm just suggesting that they might not be as happy with being manipulated like that. Right. That's all.
No, I hear you. I wouldn't. Okay, and, Clark probably would not either. Oh, also, by the way, so real quick, Fukuyama, the admiral.
Yes.
Baskethead. Yeah. We see his origin story.
Yeah, we do.
And it almost feels like he's a mutant. They say he's got special powers, special healing powers, and they say something else, like he has a healing factor, and he never gets sick.
Oh.
And that because of that, he's the right one to keep all their secrets.
Oh.
So I think they plugged him into the machine, the mainframe somehow, and like he's the he's the purveyor of all the secrets, because they were worried that mutants like Professor X, who they do reference.
They reference the professor.
It's the professor.
Yes.
And he's like, I'm like, is he? Okay. Oh no, he's not there. Okay.
Hi everybody. Oh,
he's off somewhere else.
Yes.
But so they're worried that people like Professor X can read the minds of all the top leaders.
Sure.
And so they've indoctrinated this guy, and is like 17 years old or something, to be their mainframe for their secrets. So that's probably where the Vermilion come about as well. It's like aspects of his ability to keep channeling these secrets. So they theoretically can't read his mind, is the idea. He's an unmind-readable person.
Yeah. Interesting. Because, okay.
So that was kind of a cool thing. A reaction to mutants, basically. Humans trying to figure out, how do we fight the mutants? So anyway, there you go.
There you go.
If you've got some comments, please feel free to share them.
Let them rip.
We will be back with Westworld and Legion, and I think I'm going to do the Amazon Lord of the Rings story. You asked me to do it because you were like,
I asked you?
You actually did. You were like, hey, you're going to talk about that Aragorn thing? Oh, you called him Aragon.
Yes. Not deliberately, I swear.
Okay. But yeah, so I will probably talk about Aragon in a video as well.
I asked you to talk about Aragon, not Aragorn.
Oh, okay, sure, of course. I
asked if you were.
I will probably do that without Paul. Because the sarcasm that comes, the waves that come off. I'm like, can't battle sarcasm shield. Okay, so I will do that as well. So anyway, yes, subscribe if you want to get some future episodes, and make some comments. We were probably wrong. We were idiots about this episode. Let us know. Usual. How dare us have problems with it? Whatever. That's cool. I'm good with that.
I can't even stay awake.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.